Hello and welcome to this special episode of Point Counterpoint. We are not here to discuss a specific Goa issue, but an issue that is very intrinsic to the heart of virtually every Goan. It's about football, and there's been a huge heartbreak as far as football lovers are concerned because of the ban imposed on India or Indian football by FIFA for acts of omission on the part of the governing body of Indian football, AIFF, which has ultimately led to a situation where Indian teams will not be able to take part in any international events. The ban also kind of puts us in the company of nations like East Africa, Chad, and so on and so forth, who've also kind of similarly been banned by FIFA. But that's not the main intention why we are here. It is very important for us to analyze as to where did we go wrong, or where did the AIFF go wrong to allow this shame and insult to be heaped upon us in this kind of a manner. At the same time, in addition to the hurt to so many sports lovers and football lovers, what is even more crucial is that a lot of opportunities are going to be lost of budding players hopeful of taking part in international tournaments. We have a situation where our young girls team landed in Tashkent to take part in a competition and were told that they couldn't because of this ban. They landed in Tashkent and realized this, and they need to get back hurriedly from the Uzbek capital now. In addition to that, the ISL, of course, there's a huge Goa connection to the ISL. There may be a possibility of international players not being able to be rostered in teams, and so on and so forth. There's going to be a lot of fallouts. I have a very eminent panel with me, subject experts who know about this much more than I do. I'll essentially be a fly on the wall and allow the experts to deliberate on this, and I'll just moderate as mildly as possible, because we have a very, very good team. I'll just introduce the panelists. On my right is Joito Lopes, who is a very senior journalist, sports journalist, and deeply involved in Goan and Indian football. Welcome.
Thank you.
Sullivan Narona is also another journalist and a sports writer who has followed not just this issue, but follows football very, very closely and comments about it and writes. On my left is Xavier Messias, the former secretary of the GFA, and of course known to everybody as one of the foremost serious voices of Goan and Indian football. And last but not the least, Elvis Combs, who's been the former president of the Goa Football Association, and ran his tenure was, of course, run very well, and he understands the nuances of this whole situation more than most people do. Joit Bab, I'll start with you. If you can just quickly summarize and get straight to the point as to what the core of the problem is.
As you have rightly said, India joined 10 other countries who were banned earlier, and you have said Iraq, Kuwait also was there, yes. Zimbabwe, Pakistan also was banned. The problem started because on May 18th, the Supreme Court verdict forced Praful Patel and its executive committee to step down, and the Supreme Court appointed a 3-member committee of administrators. Now we have to go back and analyze that the third time office of 12 years for Praful Patel ended in December 2020. But he stayed in office citing a pending Supreme Court case. The case has been pending since 2017, but the worst thing is that he refused to hold elections till the issue of the new constitution was settled by the top court. There was somebody who went to the Supreme Court, and the verdict was that he is out along with the executive committee. This happened on May 18. On May 23rd, Praful Patel requests FIFA chief not to impose ban on the country after AIFF was placed under COA. That's your Committee of Administrators. And then this is what we have seen, that 3 members, they took over and they started working. And the main problem was that the Electoral College was set up by the COA. It had 36 member associations, but they incorporated 36 eminent persons, which the FIFA says no, it cannot be approved.
So this is the core of the issue.
This is the core.
Okay,
of
just
the
come.
issue.
Sullivan, your quick thing on the fact that what ramifications will this have?
Look, talking strictly from a fan's point of view, talking strictly considering I've worked with footballing institutions, this is, from a fan's point of view, it's just going to be very, very disheartening. It's a tragic incident that's happened. Look at it also from a player's point of view. Take, for example, FC Goa, the number of young players, the number of local players that FC Goa employs. Where is the motivation going to come from? The be-all and end-all for a player is to represent their national team, to play internationally. Correct. Where is that motivation going to come from now? Even when they're playing club football, they want to perform well so that they get selected to the national team, among other reasons. But where is that motivation going to come from now? I mean, it's just sad to think that we're in an age of Indian football where, I mean, I feel, it's my personal opinion, that we have really talented players in this team. We may still not be doing as well as we need to be doing, but we have really talented players in this team, and I thought we could only get better from where we are. But unfortunately, now that this has happened, just the whole idea behind what's going to happen with this team is going to be
There's a cloud there.
There's a big, huge cloud there.
Right. Savia, this phrase that has been used, this whole third-party interference. Now, the thing is, if you could just kind of explain to us a little bit on what really was FIFA's peeve. What is the sole reason which led to FIFA taking such a drastic decision and using this phrase, this third-party interference?
Before I come to the point of the third party, I would like to bring to the notice that, in some way in 2003, the AIFF constitution was being rewritten. The meeting was chaired by I think Mr. Praful Patel, by Dasmunshi, and at that time Mr. Kulaso was the secretary. Now, all the state associations were requested to send in their amendments, proposed amendments, and so many of us, we took our associations into confidence and we suggested many amendments. When we reached a venue, the General Praful Patel proposes that all amendments are to be rejected and put it to vote. And everybody unanimously supported him. The few of us who had suggested the amendments were left high and dry.
And these amendments were in what nature?
They were all because we expected some problems in the future. They were, because of age and because of how many terms and many other issues were discussed by us. But we were never given a chance. In 20 minutes, the meeting concluded. I spent 2 hours in a flight, another 1 hour to reach there, and in 15-20 minutes, the meeting concluded. So basically, it was a faulty election process, a faulty constitution what we had. And now this is the reason why Praful Patel and all these other people have taken advantage of it.
Right.
The FIFA constitution is very clear, very clear.
Okay.
And at that point of time, there were some amendments suggested by AFC and FIFA, but it was not accepted by our body.
Right. Elvis, the impression that everybody is getting and the tone of FIFA's kind of letter and all that, it almost seems that the AIFF was being run in some kind of a shady fashion. Now, that is what hurts everybody. It just says that Indian football is run in a shady manner. There's political interference. There are people who are not connected to football who are running it. Now, this hurts much more than even the ban, perhaps.
See, Sujay, we have to understand in general, there is a deeper malaise that has affected Indian sport. Okay, and now we are discussing particularly about football. But you should not forget the fact that this sword also is hanging on Indian Olympic Association.
Right.
So also Hockey Federation, and it started with Archery Association.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now let me tell you, there are two AIFFs. One AIFF, Praful Patel era, There is an AIFF which is now under the Committee of Administrators appointed by the Supreme Court. Now you have to also bear in mind one thing, Supreme Court just did not fall into this issue. This issue went before the Supreme Court in an appeal filed by All India Football Federation. You have to go back in time to 2017 when the whole issue started in the right earnest, when the Delhi High Court said we have to follow what is called a sports code. Now this becomes the pivot of everything. What is the sports code? In a nutshell, the sports code prescribes a procedure how to elect the executive committees. The sports code also prescribes what should be the age limit for a particular person in the chair of the president and what is going to be the tenure of these particular office bearers. Whether there is a president, general secretary, treasurer in particular. There are other aspects. And what is the sports code? Sports code is a basic compilation of time to time directions given by the government of India to different federations. And federations in turn have given these directions to the respective associations. When the matter came before the Delhi High Court, they found that All India Football Federation.
But the sports codes may not be judicially enforceable, but
judicially enforceable. That is the main point. Yes, because it is now considered as the law of the land.
I see.
The Supreme Court, the Delhi High Court said it, and the Delhi High Court in 2017 quashed the elections held to the Executive Committee of the All India Football Federation, headed by Mr. Praful Patel. It was quashed. What happened was, Football Federation went to the Supreme Court, obtained a stay, and the stay lasted beyond the actual tenure of what Mr. Jovito is saying of 2020. It went beyond by another 2 years. And therefore, prima facie, when the matter now got raised before the Supreme Court said, look, whatever may be, your tenure got over in 2020, so you please step down.
Now, this was the fault, what Elvis brought up is a fault in the constitution. To contest the elections of the president, you had to get 5 people to second and propose, which meant it was you have to have control of majority of the people and one from every zone. So it was very difficult. In a small zone, sometimes you have just 4 states, like in West Zone, it was Goa, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and somebody else. Daman. So you had to get a proposer and a seconder from every zone. So it was next to impossible. So in this way, Mr. Dasmunshi and Praful Patel control the elections. Nobody could contest the election. Second thing is, in FIFA, anybody can contest the election. Here you had to be a president or a secretary for many years. You had to be in the executive committee. So
but that change was being sought about, right? In the sense
it was never allowed. It never allowed these changes to happen. So the elections were controlled.
Now that is in the past, but now prospectively, what you say is correct.
Now. But then that's what led to going to the court.
Right.
I would agree with what Elvis has said, because what they are now talking, the government of India, the Minister of Sports and Youth Affairs, they talk about the National Development Sports Code. Now this is a 2011 code which is there. AIFF was selective, asking some associations to implement it when they themselves were not for it, because the tenure is specified. That's what now they say, that you have to have a cooling period after 8 consecutive years. And therefore, to circumvent this, Praful Patel prolonged that in the Supreme Court. But there was an end, and Praful Patel was divested of the post, and therefore this COA has taken over. Now, it should have been the vision of the COA also to involve FIFA in this whole matter, because Article 12 of the statutes say that there is no third party interference.
That's right, correct.
So if they had at that time itself taken FIFA also along with them, all these problems would not have had arisen. And as far as the ISL is concerned, all the players, foreign players, have almost been signed, because your ITC is already done, and there is no other window. Who will suffer is basically the I-League.
Right. I-League will suffer.
Yeah, I-League will suffer. But there are already Goa has already suffered.
Yeah, I'll come to that.
After the ban, Goa has been the first victim, I would say.
Okay, I'll specifically get into this.
Yes.
See, on June 23rd, FIFA told AIFF that you please clean up the mess. You ensure that your constitution is approved by July 31st, and you conduct the elections by September 15th.
Yes.
This was FIFA's direction.
Absolutely.
Post which apparently the AIFF went to the Supreme Court and also said that we are ready to conduct the elections by August 28th. The process will be open. So what happened then? September 15 was the deadline. September 15 they still not come. Why couldn't they kind of get their act together by September 15th or August 25th?
Because on July 13th,
right,
the COA sends the final draft constitution of AIFF to FIFA.
right,
On July 16, COA submits AIFF draft constitution to Supreme Court for its approval.
right,
July 18, the state associations express unhappiness over several provisions in the final draft constitution
Yes.
prepared by COA,
Right.
but say that they are willing to find a middle ground.
Mm-hmm.
So the state associations have been represented by seven-member panel. They have written to FIFA that several clauses of the final draft are discriminatory and illogical. Now, on July 21st, the Supreme Court endorses the need to expedite the elections to AIFF.
Yes.
And therefore, they have 36 representatives on one side
Yes.
representing the state associations.
Correct.
And they have 36 now new people, eminent person, which in any case FIFA is not going to admit.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Your question is why Praful did not conduct the elections, right?
There are two questions. One is
because he did not conduct the
No.
election because he took shelter of the matter
yeah,
in
so
Supreme
I'm
Court.
so
which
I'm
was
not
necessary.
so I'm not even getting into why Praful did not. Praful has to explain many things. He has a lot of questions to answer. My point here is that when FIFA told there was a meeting between FIFA, AFC and AIFF. Okay, there very clearly FIFA told AIFF that you get your act together. Their exact words were, "You please clean up the mess." This was FIFA's exact words they used, clean up the mess. FIFA also said that, look, we are giving you time. You get your constitution approved and you conduct the elections by September 15th. We have no problem. So my issue is that even after getting this leeway, they should have got their act together, got all the associations together and done it. The time was there. I have a feeling that FIFA has stepped in now because the July 31st deadline of getting the constitution approved was violated. So then they must have realized that they cannot. Elvis, you were saying something.
Yeah. One thing you have to note and you have to understand is when the Delhi High Court had passed the first verdict, which got stayed in the Supreme Court, they had appointed only one administrator.
Right, okay.
That is Mr. Qureshi, former Chief Election Commissioner.
Yes.
He was given this task. He was supposed to prepare all the draft constitution, revised constitution. Now it has taken between 17 and 22 5 long years. In the meanwhile, matter went to Supreme Court and got stayed and it started rotting there.
Right.
Until it was brought to Supreme Court's notice. See, the complicity is from various angles.
Correct.
So had this been done in time, we would not have lost so much as we have lost now.
Yes.
This did not get delivered in time, and therefore now matter went into the Supreme Court. We have to thank the Supreme Court that they, with the intention of finishing this matter once and for all, they took it upon themselves. They said, let the draft go before the people. Whoever wants to give suggestions, let them give. I have given a couple of suggestions, and let draft finally, if there are going to be problems, we are going to pass a final order on this.
Right.
Now, the matter now has been heard, and now in the meanwhile this ban has come. Nevertheless, you have to also keep in mind the matter is coming up on Monday. Because yesterday when the matter came up, and it is the first time the Union government has moved to the Supreme Court
Right.
after this FIFA ban.
Right.
And that is the time they have decided, okay, we will work out, we will, amicably we'll come with a proper solution and come before the court on Monday. So hopefully something should happen and this ban should go.
I think it's basically the COA were insisting on these players. I think that was the main problem.
COA was insisting on these players to be there.
On 8 players to be in the committee.
Right.
Now,
It is not like that.
association
It is
have
not like that. I
provision.
think, all the suggestions have come from either state associations or people who have been associated with football, whether it is Sullivan or Savio or Jovito or me. Like this, many people have given these suggestions. So there is a strong votary of getting eminent players on the electoral college. That is what the FIFA had objected, saying that eminent players, and in this number that equal, 36 from the association and 36 from
No,
eminent
but what
players.
is FIFA's mindset? Because people who don't understand.
Come down to 25%.
I know that 25% figure I have. No, what I'm trying to understand on behalf of viewers is that why would FIFA not want eminent players to be there?
No,
you can have a limited number of players.
Okay.
You could have co-opted, like even the Goa Football Association co-opts one or two,
No, but
two
if you
people.
don't-
It is like
But
this.
not, you cannot,
See,
not 8 people with voting rights.
I'll ask you a layman's question. Layman's question would be, a layman football lover would say that we would rather have eminent footballers managing Indian football than to have people from outside. That would be the layman's question.
Yeah, Sujay Bab,
Yeah.
ultimately, all those who are really interested in football administration must understand the FIFA statutes.
Right.
If you don't know the FIFA statutes, then you cannot proceed.
Okay.
The FIFA statutes, the member federations should not be subject to legal and political interference in their countries. Then, now despite the Supreme Court's interference, which was already there, FIFA did not ban India and instead sent a joint FIFA AFC mission to monitor the situation of Indian football.
So what you are saying that FIFA would have even objected to the Supreme Court?
Yes, even now they will object because no third party can decide on all this.
And in this case, Supreme Court is also a third party.
Now the Supreme Court is different role.
Right.
Somebody went, they gave a decision,
right,
and then they said we are appointing COA. How the COA should have proceeded is the bone of contention now. You have 36 member associations, you have got 36 eminent players. See, players also can come in the executive committee through the clubs, or you stand for elections indirectly and you come through.
Right.
What FIFA says there, 25% you can have eminent persons, but that also co-opted by the state associations. So on this, FIFA is not going to change their statute number 12. So this is very clear. So until and you understand this interference, COA, according to me, I may be wrong, they could have had sorted out all this by calling the general body meeting and telling them this will be the scenario, because what is at stake is what exactly our former president has said. He talked about the National Sports Development Code. Tenures are expressed, you cannot hold office and all that. Guidelines are there. And Elvis has rightly said, in Goa we have had one president or one association holding the post of president for 25 years. There is also a problem now in Goa Olympic Association, the same problem. So who is going to create this mess? That's why the Supreme Court has intervened, and I am glad that they have intervened, because this mess has to be cleared once for all. Now, what is the methodology of the COA? They could have adopted a slightly different and say that these affairs are of AIFF. FIFA says, this is your problem, sort it out amongst you. You sort it out.
Right.
So call a general body meeting of all the association. Tell them this is needed. Almost impose this thing, because this is the need of the hour. And then go about.
Okay. Sullivan, the issue is that, you see, we are hearing these terms COA and AIFF and governing body and so on and so forth. The fundamental question is that our sport in India, and if you look at whether it's football or cricket or whatever, they ultimately, sports bodies are these days controlled more by the political class with power and money and so on and so forth. Now this name of Praful Patel is coming up again and again, and to a lot of young footballers and others, they've been hearing Praful Patel to be at the helm of affairs for a long time. Now who is Praful Patel? He's a former minister, he's he's virtually running the NCP party and so on and so forth. Even if you look at the ISL, everybody knows that who is the controlling factor of the ISL. There is a particular business family that controls all the fortunes of ISL, and there are political linkages as well. Now, how much does this impact football as a football?
Again, talking strictly from a fan's point of view, I mean, there is, of course, a lot of negativity with regard to what is happening around Indian football, and it's been so for a while also. I mean, considering what we can achieve and what we have achieved, every Indian football fan right now is extremely disheartened, not only because of the ban right now, but with the way things have been run over the past couple of years, with a couple of...
And Goa is no exception.
Goa is absolutely no exception to the rule. With regard to the ISL, again, it's... Some people like it, some people don't like it with regard to the family in question. But then at the end of the day, I mean, we all want to watch football. We want to watch our young players develop into great players, play for the national team and do something worthwhile on the international stage. From strictly that point of view, I think the ISL is a great platform. I mean, we wouldn't have probably heard of like a Liston or a Princeton or any of these younger players had it not been for FC Goa, had it not been for the ISL. So what the ISL is doing for Indian football, and also, I mean, what FC Goa is doing for Goan football, I think is great. But then when it comes to pushing these guys to, play for the national team, and when it comes to the national team playing
that leaves a lot to be desired.
It leaves a lot to be desired.
Correct.
And we're always left wondering what if as a fan.
Same question.
In fact, I think FC Goa is keeping football alive in Goa.
Yes,
right now.
exactly.
If it's not for FC Goa, I don't know what would have been the fate of football in Goa.
Right.
Second thing is, I like to also mention, we've had a lot of foreign delegations coming in the past to Goa and working with us, officials, coaches, and nobody could believe that our officials are not full-time. Like, for example, the president or a secretary of the association is not a full-time. All over the world, they are full-time.
And they are professionals, they are paid a salary and
whatever.
Yeah, great.
Even if they are not paid also, but they are there full-time in the office. But unlike in Goa, where sometimes I know of officials who probably come once in a month to the office and spend just maybe a few minutes there. That's not how it's run all over the world. So this is a problem we're having in our system.
Elvis, how do we, get rid of this whole political interference? Because at the end of the day, it comes down to politics.
See, that, Sujay, is highly debatable whether politicians are required or not. Not because now I'm in politics, I'm not holding any public office. So let's distinguish between that.
Sure.
Politicians have done their part in holding, when they have held associations and federations and all that. But the issue is now, once we are seized with the issue of implementation of the National Sports Development Code, I think we should abide by that and follow, because see, today there is no compulsion on the government of India to follow that. If you are on your own standing or on own feet,
correct,
every damn thing you are going to the government for, succor and aid.
Right.
That is why these questions arise. Otherwise, there would have been never a problem if you are independent, like BCCI finally came out. Though BCCI also had their own set of problems, which finally went before the Supreme Court.
Correct.
And there was a heavy judgment which you must be aware of.
That's right, correct.
Again, I must say that, FIFA also is not above board. FIFA has their huge share of problems, and there was so much corruption that it resulted in the stepping down of Mr. Blatter and all those, right from, and when we talk about eminent players and all, Platini was also one of the victims of that.
Right,
victim means, I don't know, in whichever way. So let's not, say that FIFA is something
and there is some amazing investigation that has been done on the Qatar World Cup also.
Exactly.
On the build up to the Qatar World Cup as well.
So let's also bring it in focus that FIFA also has been embroiled in huge corruption which has come in the public, in the world over. Now coming back to AIFF, yes, what I have to say is, what was the question?
My question was the same. My question was in the sense this: why should politicians be governing sports bodies? And here we are specifically talking about
that
football.
Is what, to some extent, the National Sports Development Code tried to curtail it and control it. So what is wrong in that? I do not understand why we are so, averse to implementation of the sports code, which would have, thrown open the associations and the federations to more people, and there would have been a real, see, the principle of bringing the sports code was to ensure transparency in the governance of sporting bodies. Because every time there is so much investment made by the government of the taxpayers' money in sport promotion, and when we go to Olympics or some, world level games, we fail.
But who's responsible for implementing it? The sports ministry.
The sports federations. Sports ministry doesn't have much role to play. They will only give you help. Then the federations, and federations means the associations down below, and even it goes to the district level. Or take the case of football.
No, but who's accountable? Who's accountable?
Accountable is everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah, we have to see if something is given in our hands, we have to show results. We have to give accountability, which is missing. And because it is missing, because people are holding too long, positions in sporting bodies, this sports code was brought. And therefore, whether politicians are there or are not there, will not make much of a difference. What is required is a good intention, and you have to, limit to your tenure and deliver. That's all.
You see, in war, there is this phrase called collateral damage. And it pertains to people who are not directly participants in the war, who become its victims. And it happens to civilians in a war situation. In this case, in terms of football, the sad part here is that there are two people who are victims of this collateral damage. One is, of course, the fans, but more importantly, players, many of them young players, and also clubs and teams and so on and so forth. And when something like this happens, what is denied to people who love the sport, play the sport, are professional in the sport, is the opportunity to compete at the highest levels. So when you kind of lose out on international tournaments, international games, and time spent on the pitch, competing with the best players, that is the time when you feel the pinch, the maximum. Our heart completely goes out to the hardworking under 17 girls team who are really looking forward to playing in an international world stage, and as the host country they would be participating and rubbing shoulders with the best. Now if that tournament is taken out of India, then their chances also go at the same time. So looking into this, we'll spend a little bit of this, because the impact that it has, the impact of bad decisions taken by powers that be on people who will actually keep the sport alive, the players, is something very sad, and we need to discuss it. I'll start with Elvis. If you can just give a few thoughts on what I just said.
Yeah, as far as the fans are concerned, I will leave it to advocate on behalf of the fans, Mr. Sullivan is concerned. But,
no,
yes,
but players, I would say players.
It has impacted. It has impacted, and rightly, as Sullivan put it in the beginning, the motivation. The motivation is definitely affected of players. See, what do we look forward to, and what is the roadmap ahead? But before that, I'll just, since you're on this issue, there was a discussion about ISL. You will allow me to deviate a bit?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
It's a free-flowing discussion.
About ISL, and that ISL now is holding fort, and because it is there, something is happening in football. With the greatest respect to ISL and all that, but 10 years down the line, before 10 years ago, this debate, when it first started, when the Premier League was the I-League, and not that, and Sullivan, you must be remembering, if you were following then, not that I-League was, a weak league. I-League was drawing tremendous, fan following.
Yes,
there was a huge turnout of crowds.
I still remember the year when Sporting Club, they suddenly, did so well, and went right up to the final, the young club, and there was so much of passion. I remember that. Yes.
When this was a state of affairs, instead of boosting the main league of the nation, the powers that came up with the parallel league, and the parallel league had no relegation and still doesn't have, I don't know whether it is still.
There's no relegation.
There's no relegation at all.
There's no relegation. So that is where many clubs came on a collision course with ISL, and victims, 3 clubs from Goa backed out.
Right.
And Churchill Brothers was the only team that was not even in the I-League that was, just to save face, was pulled in. And since then he is there. They are there. The club is there. So at different stages, whether it is FIFA ban or our own actions or sins of omission, commission, different stages, we have not actually done what is required to be done for the game of football. And that is this is one instance of it, FIFA ban. But that is the reason why I think overall, holistically, when you look at it, we have been suffering.
Savio, now just let's talk about how the international opportunities that we may miss out if this is not sorted out, and what impact will have.
Yeah, I'll talk about 2 factors. One is aspirations of the players. Like now, for example, these girls, they train very hard in difficult conditions to get exposure, because 2 Indian players, women players, were contracted by some foreign countries.
Right.
So they also went with an aspiration, but now the aspiration is killed. The same with a lot of other players. And there's also the commerce to it also. For example, if the World Cup was going to be held in Goa, was one of the centers.
Right.
The industries, the various industries were going to earn a lot. Tourism industry, the travel industry.
Right.
So there's a commercial aspect to it also, which is going to affect quite badly.
His industry.
But tourism is actually everybody's industry.
But the main thing is the aspiration of players.
Correct.
Look, for example, now in the so-called COVID has reduced the number of youth tournaments and things like that. So the interest in amongst kids has dwindled, has gone down.
Right.
Now we have to build it up. The Indian team also, they had the high hopes of doing well in this. The coach was planning for long camps. They were talking with the ISL clubs, and a lot of planning was going on. Again, it's going to get affected.
Sullivan, tell me again, as a fans advocate, as Elvis said, but tell me now, the thing is it very real that our international presence is going to shrink completely? We don't know what's going to come out of this. Everybody hopes that this is just a passing phase and things will work out. But the point is, it is also a fact that the rude awakening is that we've lost out on a World Cup.
Yeah. So talking about that World Cup, I just wanted to point out that when India hosted the previous Under-17 World Cup, the men's Under-17 World Cup, we got to see stars like Phil Foden, Erling Haaland, and I think Jadon Sancho also, if I'm not wrong, play in Goa, play in India, which is a huge deal for us. I mean, these players are established stars of huge clubs across the world right now.
Right.
What if at this particular World Cup there would have been a couple of girls who, you know, eventually made it to either the English team or the US national team or some big club in the world? As fans, we're prevented from seeing possibly something great that could happen in the future, which, I mean, is not fair to us, because, I mean, we go to watch matches, we pay our money to watch matches, we sit up to watch matches at any time. When the Indian team plays abroad, we sit up, wherever they're playing, we sit up to watch the matches.
Right.
I mean, it's not fair to us that we have to suffer on account of a couple of people's terrible indecision and bad behavior.
Right.
So, I mean, I just don't think it's fair to us.
Joyce Bab, now as far as the ISL is concerned, is there a fear that the ISL team will no longer be able to have, if this is not solved, foreign players playing for them? Will it affect the next season?
I think so, all the clubs have signed all the foreign players. So ITCs are in place. So your ISL can take place.
I think Northeast have not signed a single player, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not entirely
Northeast
sure.
here, they were to sign their players.
Okay, so
But,
that they will
but
get
it can
affected.
be held. There will be no problem in organizing the ISL per se. It will affect the I-League because they have not signed any player. So they are not ready.
But the I-League also has a fair percentage of...
Yeah, not as much, not so much luster that the ISL has. Though ISL has not actually contributed much in the form of the league, it's not even in the first 10 in the Asian leagues.
Okay.
And as Elvis said, there's no relegation. Fewer number of matches are being played, and that's not the way to go about in ISL.
Right.
But the ISL killed virtually the I-League, because I-League 3 teams, as Elvis said, have withdrawn. So those politics again, these are the politics of AIFF.
Right.
They went with the reliance and all those things, and it has hampered the actual development of football. But let me tell you that the suspension will affect India, as they all talked about hosting of World Under-17 girls team. You have spoken enough of that. That is one part. Goa has already been affected by that.
Please tell us how.
We are the first casualty. We were hosting the C license course. We were to start the second module of the C license course, which is approved by AFC.
Could you just elaborate a bit of that?
Coaching.
Yes,
this is for those who want to enhance.
Of Asian Football Confederation.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a license. Now it's a diploma, and it is recognized to be a license coach of AFC.
I see.
So we conducted the first one, the first module.
We as in Goa.
In Goa.
Right.
In Goa.
Right.
Then the second module was to start yesterday. There was a letter to say that due to the suspension, this cannot go on.
I see.
So 24 people who came, some came from Kerala, some came from other few states, and then the Goans by say. So they had to be told by the coach educators, which are appointed by them, to say that we cannot hold.
So this really literally came home. This problem came home.
Yes, we are the first casualty.
So just see, there are other implications also. It's not just playing on the field or development of players. There are other large number of benefits that flow from FIFA.
Right.
Whether it is in the coaching, whether it is in players development, whether even like the Dhuler turf that is
as you were saying, the
that's
AstroTurf.
Yeah, that was part of an overall program to provide such artificial turfs to different countries. And I think Savia was there that time. Goa was also one of the beneficiaries.
Right.
In fact, we got 2.
Dhuler and Fatorda.
Fatorda besides the stadium.
Yes.
So as he said, Goa could lose on massive FIFA grants.
Right.
Now let me share with you, in the last 3 years, AIFF got $3 million. $3 million.
In the last 3 years.
In the last 3 years.
Right.
Now this money has been used for AstroTurf also. The AstroTurf that we have at Dhuler, the AstroTurf at Nehru is not from AIFF. It is money given by FIFA.
Right.
Then grassroots football, all the money comes from FIFA. So we all could lose $5 lakh annual in form of grants. Now they are very massive. National team,
$5 lakh.
Yes,
annually.
5 lakhs annually.
Right.
Now national teams cannot play in international matches. There are 2 matches scheduled already against Singapore and Vietnam.
Friendlies.
Yes. So you will not be able to participate in that. And we will not be able to take any developmental program like courses in training and all that. Now, against Singapore, we are to play on September 27. And September 24 also, there was another match against Vietnam. Now, we know that Gokulam has a problem.
Yes.
They are already stranded in Tashkent.
I know, I mentioned that.
So that has already
Kerala
happened.
Gokulam, yes.
But senior women's team will not be able to take part in SAF Women's Championship next month. Mohan Bagan has to play in AFC Cup Internationals on September 7. And India has to play in AFC Under 20 qualifiers in Iraq. Now, Gokulam, I'm sure cannot take part.
No, they're already in Tashkent, they have to come back.
So they have to come back.
Yes.
And what we also know that Kerala Blasters, it's your ISL, they had opted to go to Emirates to play friendlies. 3 friendlies from August 20 in UAE as pre-season, they have been cancelled. So the implications.
No, which means that even FC Goa and others, if they want to do pre-season friendlies abroad, they can't.
Abroad, no. So it has already made a dent in international, and also, as I've said, the C license course has already been stopped. So the ramifications are now.
I think some Goan referees also have been got for foreign assignments.
Goan referees.
They will not be able to.
Maria Rebello and some others.
So even Goan referees cannot go and referee matches there. Yes.
So what they said...
they were appointed by FIFA.
Right.
The Solicitor General said that we need to take proactive steps with FIFA to lift suspension and ensuring hosting of World Cup Under 17. The whole focus now is because the government is involved.
Right.
So the prestige of the nation is involved.
Right.
But it is not only the prestige of the nation, there are other implications also.
Right.
Therefore, people don't understand what is the sport law and what is the Article 12 of the statutes of FIFA.
Correct.
Unless you understand that, this whole scenario is not as easy and simple as is being portrayed.
But today we are crying over spilled milk, but we were also part of this situation. We were supporting Praful Patel also.
Yeah, that was my question.
What was our representative of GFA doing?
No,
had he not raised his issues at the general body meeting, AGM, all these things? Why was he quiet today? Why blame everybody else except yourself?
My question is Praful Patel the disease or is he the symptom?
Am I right? Am I right?
One question is Praful Patel the disease or is he the symptom, or is he the after effect of the disease, or is he a symptomatic element here? Is the system diseased and Praful Patel is a system?
As I
is
said,
a symptom. Sorry,
it was a diseased system from day one. When the constitution was drafted, was being put to vote, discussion was never allowed.
Right.
Now we have a faulty constitution. No, and that's the reason why we are inheriting all these problems.
Savio, the point that I'm trying to make is that there was Priyaranjan Dashmunshi, the late Priyaranjan Dashmunshi was there before that. There have been many AIFF presidents. My point is Praful Patel any different from his predecessors? He is also, the child of the same system.
The difference between the last 2 presidents we had is Dashmunshi had love for football and he understood football.
Right.
Praful Patel never had any inclination, no knowledge of football.
So what was his benefit?
Dashmunshi brought Praful Patel and made him sit on the chair and got him elected. Okay, it was all because...
no, since we're having a frank discussion, let us, figure out what the elephant in the room is.
And then what happened was nobody else was allowed to contest.
So what was Praful Patel's desire or intention to rule for over 12 years? What are the tangible and intangible benefits for being in this position?
It was the post of the presidentship of AIFF. Then it became AFC. Then it became FIFA.
Right.
Because he kept going higher and higher and higher.
In his aspirations.
Yes. So that actually there's a lot of...
He is a council member right now of FIFA.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a lot of importance and you get a lot of facilities and you're like a VVIP at the World Cup and all these other places and all. There are a lot of benefits.
But see, I'll just like to add to what he said and to your question. It is overall the system has been diseased. So let's not put the blame at the feet of only one person or two persons.
Correct.
It is the overall system. And coming back here itself, you have to look your inward home.
Yes, please do that. That's important. Correct. And what is the problem here?
here I mean to say at association level,
Yes,
across
yes,
the country.
yes.
I don't mean per se Goa.
No,
itself.
I understand that.
But
Just
what
do elaborate on that, because we want to know.
associations
Yes.
are the ones who
Yes.
make up the federation.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
These are the parts.
Right.
Sum together of the associations is the federation.
Sure, sure.
So somewhere something is become a rot in the associations, which reflects at the federation level. And now what is happening at the federation level is for the world to see, because FIFA has stepped into the picture. I take one positive from this. The country is talking about football.
Right, right, correct.
FIFA when? What is FIFA when? So at least today the country overall, from Kanyakumari to this thing Kashmir, is talking about football. So I see some positive of FIFA when.
No, it's just a few associations who opposed it, like Kerala, Delhi and a few others
Right.
really made some noise. The rest all went with the president, and now we're suffering.
Sullivan, do you agree with Elvis when he says that this is going to lead to a purging and a cleanup, and the football is going to be better for it?
We could only hope. We could only hope that it gets better from here, because we just want to watch football at the end of the day. We just want to watch football. I mean, I completely agree with Elvis. Something's got to give. At some point of time, something's got to give. Now we just have to sit back, hope that, they clean up their mess and we get to watch football. At the end of the day, look, as fans also, we want whoever's running the association of the country,
right,
we want them to love football primarily.
Right.
We want them to have some knowledge of the sport. We want them to love football. If you don't love the sport, if you don't love the game, if you don't understand the game,
correct,
how are you going to have that sort of motivation or an interest in, making it bigger in the country?
Jodha, do you share this optimism, or are you skeptical?
No, definitely there will be some cleansing. This is for sure, because the Supreme Court also has directed that elections should be held expeditiously,
right,
as per the schedule proposed by the COA.
Right.
And also, I know that these 36 eminent players will be pruned down, and they need to be pruned down, because
Correct.
ultimately you have to go by the statutes of the FIFA, Article 12 basically. So there will be a cleansing, there is no doubt about it, and there is a hope that the whole process will be much better than what it happened.
Here it is, you scratch my back, I scratch your back.
Yeah.
Now there's two associations which went to court, Bengal and Meghalaya, right? They went for their personal interest.
Right.
Subroto Datta wanted to
No,
contest.
see, when we
He
talk
was,
of purging,
he was
and as you rightly
not
said,
eligible because of age.
Sullivan also added to that, and
Yes.
also Jovito also is on the right track. But as I said, charity begins at home. Now, as far as Goa is concerned, in the electoral college, we are not talking about eminent players. In the electoral college, there are 36 associations.
Right.
35 plus 1. In our association, the nominee is the president's daughter on the electoral college. I read in the newspaper yesterday that the executive committee members have taken exception to the president of Goa Football Association nominating his own daughter to be part of the electoral college. So what I am saying, if purging is to start, it has to start here at the bottom,
At home.
and that is how it has to take
And work its way up.
And how on earth
across the country.
can you propose your daughter's name to go for a voting to represent Goa Football Association?
right,
It's
right,
ridiculous.
correct.
So why
No,
are
but
we
the
wasting? We are wasting our time.
But why is
talking
the,
about
why is
what
the
ails
association
Indian
not?
football?
But why have the members of the association not protested?
See, I go by media reports. I am not privy to anything, but media, yesterday there was a report that they have taken exception, they have returned to the federation. I tried to find out what
But the
exactly
returning
is going on.
officer rejected it or something. Now who's the returning officer?
No, whatever that may be, see, let's not go into specifics of it. What I'm saying is more generic, that, the system needs an overhaul. One good thing, as you all agree, is the football is being talked about everywhere.
Everywhere, correct.
And it's not only football, it's also to do with archery, it's also got to do with hockey, it's got to do with the Indian Olympic Association.
Correct.
And
right.
when it comes to Goa, Jovit knows better. There are so many associations that are, being headed by people for years without end. So how are you going to develop a very vibrant, system,
A sports
a robust
system, yes,
system?
correct.
You
Indian
cannot do that.
Olympic Association also has
Same story.
a COA in Delhi
exactly.
High Court.
Even
has appointed-
even BCCI had COA.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Correct.
So
Yeah,
today if we are
but
only
BCCI
talking about
all
FIFA
sat
then,
together
Yeah.
because there was a lot of
Match fixing and
money involved.
happening. Yes, correct. Allegations.
So they sat together and they sorted it out.
Okay, now I'll read out from the press statement of FIFA post the ban, just to put it on record and have a few thoughts around it. FIFA said that the suspension will be revoked once the order appointing the COA to assume the powers of the AIFF Executive Committee is repealed. FIFA also said that it was concerned that the COA appointed by the Supreme Court to oversee the functioning of the AIFF till a democratically elected executive committee is put in place. Basically, FIFA has expressed these kind of concerns and they wanted the COA to be replaced by a proper committee. Now, do you see that happening?
It can happen. It
Right.
can happen. It all depends now on this
No,
meeting.
in the time frame that we have now.
Now, nobody knows now. The schedule was already given
Right,
already for
right,
elections and
right,
all that.
yes.
Nobody knows now what is happening to that. But eventually, elections have to take place. There must be an executive committee to take over, and this will be a new executive committee for sure.
Right.
When it will happen, I don't know. But at the moment, everybody is talking about your 50%. FIFA recommended that 25% eminent players representation in its executive committee as co-opted member instead of 50% stipulated in the draft constitution by COA. So this is the bone of contention now.
Right.
So what will be the electoral college? Who will decide? How it will be decided? And then the hosting of the election. Elections will be held. Now we don't know when they will be held.
There's another small elephant in the room which I'd like to just bring up, and that is match fixing. Now, this is something that is not openly talked about and so on and so forth. But the issue is that this matter is coming up more and more. It's come up with regard to Goan football as well. It is now coming up with international football. My issue is there a possibility that there could be some element of doubt or a black spot as far as FIFA is concerned about Indian football in that direction? It may not be the case also, but it appears that that could be something that's in the air.
No, we cannot go under that premise because see, we are only right now dealing with a particular issue, a set of issues vis-a-vis Indian Football Federation and the directions given by the Supreme Court.
Right.
Whether somewhere at the back of a person's mind who is deciding at FIFA, something like this has been there, and that has aggravated,
yes.
that thought of, let's strike at these people and ban them and let them go into cooling period for some time. Could be a possibility, like it depends on individuals. If I was sitting there, इनको दिखाना है, इनका match fixing भी ज़्यादा हो गया, चलो मारेंगे इनको.
Correct.
It could be, but this cannot come in the forefront as
obviously not.
without any evidence.
I don't think so. FIFA would interfere much because see, there is an integrity officer in the federation.
Right.
Okay. Now, if we are talking about the federation level, at the national level, well, if they find something wrong, they'll probably advise the president of AIFF to look into this.
Right.
But I don't think they would interfere as far as.
Correct.
See, our whole problem, we must admit, we have a question of integrity. Overall integrity. We may have integrity officers to, do certain acts, but overall integrity of ours has been poor, and therefore
there's a question mark there.
Therefore, this has left a room open for Supreme Court to intervene.
Correct.
Or even Delhi High Court to intervene. Otherwise, there would never have been a problem.
Right.
So let us take, it in right spirit that because Supreme Court has now intervened, some good will come out of it.
Joybab, does Indian football have an integrity issue?
In Goa, we had, as you said, this problem, but these are all alleged.
Right.
It has never been proved, and it will not be proved. It's pretty difficult.
Sure.
It doesn't even come under CRPC or IPC. But this is a big threat, and it was a threat, but it cannot be proved.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't think so. FIFA has considered even at the back of their mind this issue.
Sullivan, if you take FIFA out, as a fan, do you feel there's an integrity issue with regard to Indian football?
There could possibly be, but again, as Jovit said, there's no way to actually prove it.
Right.
And I mean, why mar your experience of watching football by
doing this? Correct.
By thinking that if you're watching a particular game and it doesn't go to plan, why would you? Why is that the first thing that you think of?
Correct.
I mean, it just takes away from the experience of watching the game. So I mean, if there is, until it's innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
So
let sleeping dogs lie.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Okay. I'm afraid we are running out of time. Of course, we could have gone on a little longer because, as far as football is concerned, there is no referee here to blow the long whistle. But unfortunately, I need to play that role a little bit and bring this discussion to a close. But I think we've had a very fruitful round of discussions, essentially pointing at the core of the whole issue. And I think the takeaway from this is that Indian football needs to get a lot more serious, not because of anything else, because it owes it to the lovers of football, to the fans of football, and we cannot use Indian football or any sports body as a foundation or as a stepping stone for personal kind of growth and satisfaction and power. So I think power game should be moved out of Indian sports completely, and ultimately integrity and delivery to the fans, and at the same time respecting the fact that there are so many young players who give their lives to the game at the cost of everything else. Their aspirations should be kept on top of the mind by every sports body, because they are ultimately there to facilitate and not rule. And that, I think, that is what is something which is very important. And if we end that discussion with that thought, probably we'll contribute a little drop in this whole beautiful ocean of football. I thank all my guests and panelists for contributing to this very riveting and important discussion. Thank you very much.